Explore, Encounter, Exchange, D-Day. The encounter of Allied forces versus German Nazi and Axis forces. World War II. The Second World War was arguably the most significant period of the 20th century. It brought about major leaps in technology and laid the groundwork that permitted post-war social changes, including the end of European colonialism, the civil rights movement in the United States, and the modern women's rights movement, as well as the programs for exploring outer space. The primary combatants of World War II were the Axis nations, which included Nazi Germany, Fascist Italy, Imperial Japan, and their smaller allies. Adolf Hitler was the leader of the National Socialist Party, also known as the Nazis. The Allied nations were led by Britain and its Commonwealth nations, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic and the United States of America. Winston Churchill was the Prime Minister of Great Britain, Franklin Roosevelt was the President of the United States, and Joseph Stalin was the leader of the United Soviet Socialist Republic. Two superpowers, the United States of America and the United Soviet Socialist Republic, emerged from World War II. After World War II, a Cold War began between the United States of America and the United Soviet Socialist Republic. This Cold War would define much of the rest of the century. One of the most famous battles of the World War II is known as D-Day. This day was the turning point in the war that eventually led to an Allied victory. The term D-Day is often used as a military expression to identify the day an operation is going to take place. The military explains the use of D-Day as a letter is used in combination with plus or minus signs. The terms indicate the length of time preceding or following a specific action. Thus, H minus 3 means 3 hours before H hour, and D plus 3 means 3 days after D-Day. H plus 75 means H hour plus 1 hour and 15 minutes. D-Day is used by the military to indicate the day when an attack is going to happen. D-Day for the invasion of Normandy was set for June 6, 1944, and that date has been popularly referred to by the short title D-Day. On D-Day, the Allied forces landed in Normandy and encountered the Nazi forces. It is considered to be the beginning of the end of World War II. Prior to D-Day, the Nazi and Axis forces were considered to be winning the war against the Allied forces. The attacks on Normandy on June 6, 1944 were surprise attacks that changed the direction of the war. Dwight D. Eisenhower was the supreme commander of the Allied Expeditionary Forces. Dwight D. Eisenhower eventually became the President of the United States. As the supreme commander of the Allied forces, Eisenhower was responsible for the direction of the forces. Originally, Eisenhower selected June 5, 1944 as the date for the D-Day invasion. However, bad weather on the days leading up to the operation caused it to be delayed for 24 hours. On the morning of June 5th, after his meteorologist predicted improved conditions for the following day, Eisenhower gave the go-ahead for Operation Overlord. Eisenhower told the troops, "You are about to embark upon the Great Crusade, toward which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you." Later that day, more than 5,000 ships and landing craft carrying troops and supplies left England for the trip across the Channel to France, while more than 11,000 aircraft were mobilized to provide air cover and support for the invasion. The D-Day invasion involved approximately 156,000 American, British, and Canadian forces. The D-Day invasion happened on 5 beaches along the coast. Stretching approximately 50 miles, D-Day is considered one of the largest amphibious military assaults in history. Planning for such an event was extremely important. On June 6th, before dawn, there were thousands of paratroopers and glider troops already on the ground behind the enemy lines. The invasion began at 6:30 a.m. The British and Canadians overcame little conflict to capture the beaches, codenamed Gold, Juno, and Sword, as did the Americans at Utah Beach. U.S. forces faced heavy resistance at the Omaha Beach, where there were over 2,000 American casualties. However, by day's end, approximately 156,000 Allied troops had successfully stormed Normandy's beaches. According to some estimate, more than 4,000 Allied troops lost their lives in the D-Day invasion, with thousands more wounded or missing. Did you know The Normandy American Cemetery overlooking Omaha Beach in the English Channel was established on June 8, 1944, as the first U.S. cemetery in Europe during World War II. It holds the graves of more than 9,300 U.S. servicemen who died in the D-Day invasion or subsequent missions. Although many soldiers lost their lives in the D-Day invasion, there were many soldiers that survived to tell their stories. Other stories were told through journals that were recovered after the war. Some soldiers were lucky enough to survive, and their families now have the journals and share their stories online. The one such story is that of William Henry Smith. In his journal, there is one entry from June 5, 1944, stating, "They have brought us at the ports and boarded us in these massive ships. This is it. We are leaving tonight." On June 7, 1944, he tells the story of his encounter during the invasion of Normandy. "As we approached the beaches yesterday, all I could think of was one specific line in the speech General Eisenhower wrote us before we left England. 'The free men of the world are marching to victory.' I felt reassured as we left the landing craft infantry. Even though I could not hear myself think because everything was exploding around me, I knew that I would fight with all my heart for my country. I would fight with pride, but now words are jumping out of me. I still can't describe the horror I saw yesterday after I got out of the landing craft infantry and got in the water. Some guys were really scared. I could see it in their eyes. Heck, we were all scared. The water was freezing as I approached the beach. I saw my own friends a few feet away from me have their arms shot off or even worse, die instantly in front of me. Everything has a different meaning once you live through it. Right now, a third of my company, a third of us hiding out in a pit until darkness sets in so we can start looking for the others. I don't even know where the heck we are." By the end of August 1944, the Allies had reached the Seine River, Paris was liberated, and the Germans had been removed from northwestern France, effectively concluding the Battle of Normandy. The Allied forces then prepared to enter Germany, where they would meet up with Soviet troops moving in from the east. Normandy invasion began to turn the tide against the Nazis. A significant psychological blow, it also prevented Hitler from sending troops from France to build up his eastern front against the advancing Soviets. The following spring, on May 8, 1945, the Allies formally accepted the unconditional surrender of Nazi Germany. Hitler had committed suicide a week earlier on April 30th. D-Day was the encounter between Allied forces and Axis forces during the World War II that will always be remembered as the encounter that changed the course of the war.